Hey guys, I want to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, I don't want to do these lots because I don't feel that these impressions kind of things are really what the channel is about, but if you guys like them, I will do more of them. I have no issue with that. I like talking about games. But I wanted to do it about Mass Effect specifically because I love Mass Effect. It is one of my favorite game series of all times. I love it. I even like number 3, and I don't think the ending is as bad as everybody says it is. Anyways, this is not about Mass Effect 3, this is about Mass Effect Andromeda. Now that we have a release date and we have our CES trailer, I feel a little more comfortable talking about my hopes and fears with the game. I've generally stayed away from most of the story details for obvious reasons. I don't want to spoil it for myself. But if I recall, the game's set between Mass Effect 2 and 3, where the races got together and sent a vessel out to explore the Andromeda galaxy, just in case the Reaper invasion did not go very well, which we know it didn't really go very well for anybody involved. But you play as the Pathfinder named Ryder. You are the leader of this expedition thing that is exploring the Andromeda galaxy. So in typical Mass Effect style, it seems that we're going to have the option to play as male or female and create our character as usual. What's different is it seems like the class system is being thrown straight out the window and we'll have more of a choice-based system where you can switch those things up on the fly. Instead of selecting engineer or infiltrator or biotic and being stuck with that, we're going to be able to put points into each individual one that we want and switch it on the fly. What worries me about that is how they're going to handle it in terms of mid-combat. I feel that it could break the combat system, being able to pause it and switch it on the fly to whatever weakness you need it. So if you have an armor-based enemy, you can just swap out into I believe it's the engineer that had Ignite or whatever it was, and you just burn it away and then switch to your biotic, and then you can use whatever you want to use to basically destroy their weaknesses. I feel like that could break the balance and the combat of the game. I mean, we haven't seen too much about the combat, but it seems a lot faster and a lot more fluid than all the other previous Mass Effect games. You have a lot more mobility. You can jump, you can slam to the ground, you have a jetpack that you can use to hover in air. You feel more mobile, it seems. Yeah, another issue I have with that is the character has what looks like a dodge. I would assume it's probably going to be mapped to the left and right triggers, or you dodge left and right, or some similar concept of that. But I think there needs to be a cooldown on it so that players can't just spam it and left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. That was always one of my biggest issues about the old Mass Effect games. I never found them all that hard. I generally blew through most of the combat encounters, even on the hardest difficulties. It wasn't a very hard game. That is something I hope to switch. Another thing about the combat that has me slightly worried is we haven't seen much about squad-based combat. That was always one of the best parts about Mass Effect, was the fact that you could take Liara and use her black hole thing, pop people up in the air, and you just pick them off like nothing. Or you could get Garrus to give you different ammo types against the various things, or you could use Tali to, I think she was the one that had the Ignite, and you could burn away, and then after you threw your overload at them to blow up their shields. That was one of the best parts and led to the most interesting moments of the combat, was when you could take all of your people and just throw everything and destroy everybody. That was the best part of the combat. The issue is so far we haven't seen any squad-based combat. But what I will say is the enemies do look awesome. In all the trailers, they've showed giant beasts that grab you and can throw you and whatever else. And they have the big mechs that use your flamethrower on to burn their armor away. And even in the news trailer, he walked up and he punched through the shield in order to be able to use his flamethrower. I like those aspects of the combat. I just really hope that the squad-based stuff is still there. Now, for better or worse, BioWare has not really showed off much about the dialogue system and the way that it works. I'm not too worried personally because BioWare has always had my faith when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I'm sure they're going to do it right. You can call me a fanboy or whatever, but they've never let me down in that regard. One thing I've never liked is the fact that the Paragon was blue and it was good, and your Renegade was red and it was the quote-unquote evil option. I never liked that because, as people know, it's never good and bad. There's always moral shades of gray that go in between. I also felt in the other Mass Effect games, a lot of the Renegade options were very out of character for Shepard. Like kicking somebody out of a window or just things that he would do just didn't fit with the character. Like, I get it's supposed to be evil, but he's still ultimately a good character, if you know what I mean. One other thing I hope they do with the dialogue options, I hope the interrupt options are a little more pronounced and a little more useful. There was only a few moments in the other ones where you could interrupt people as they were talking and it would actually affect it, but they didn't use them enough and it didn't have enough reason to even have the system in place. It just felt tacked on. Basically, I just hope it allows us more freedom in order to shape how we make our characters, so it's not good and evil or Paragon and Renegade. We can be You have more choice in how our character actually is. Because as we know, people are not necessarily just good and evil. One thing I'm worried about is how much there is to do in the game. Dragon Age Disquisition, I loved it. I thought it was a great game. But I understand the criticisms where people said it was a giant fetch quest, because it kind of was. You generally just went to a new area, found something new, gathered some items, and continued with the story. I would like to see them add some context to these things. Like, say you have to go find this plant because one of your crew members was poisoned by something. Just give us more of a reason to do it. We don't want to be told what to do. We want to be told what to do and why. We need that reason why we want to do that. I don't want to just go collect it so I get better equipment. One thing I do hope for, but I don't think we're going to get in this installment, maybe in the second one, is space combat. I would love to be able to take control of the Tempest and get into some space battles with things. That would be awesome. Like, could you imagine if you're flying up to a capital ship and you board it from the outside in 0G and you have to bust through and then you're fighting in 0G with your jetpack, and that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen in this one, but hey, we can hope, right? I have my hopes and fears towards the game, but I do feel that regardless of what happens, I'm personally going to enjoy the game. I'm a huge BioWare fan and I love the Mass Effect series. So regardless of how it turns out, I know that I'm going to be a little bit biased towards it because I have that nostalgia towards the series itself. I do really hope that the story kicks off and doesn't slow down at all, because as far as I recall, they are planning this as a trilogy as well. So that's going to be a little iffy, and they gotta make sure they nail that first part of the story. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the new Mass Effect and all the trailers that have come out. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and share with a friend, do all that jazz, and I will see you all in the next episode. Later.